Okay, I have a weird theory about something. The best laid plans of the Illuminati, you could say. Okay, nobody, there's never kind of the villain who has everything they need at all times. They need things to fall into place, as it's gone according to my plans, that kind of thing. So, I think, okay, so Google just canceled a $50 billion expansion project, physical expansion. That $50 billion physical expansion would have had to require more employees. So this is all San Jose. San Jose is another. Now people are just vanishing. Like everybody's just vanishing. There's somebody, Finance Hat was pointing out, he goes, like when you see people do street shots of downtown San Jose, you see homeless people, but not that many. I was actually explaining to one young man who he hadn't seen a lot of California, if any at all. So he's thinking trains are this great idea, but he didn't realize, no. Where all the video game companies are in, say, Palo Alto, and how Palo Alto was developed. Palo Alto, it makes sense that you would have such firms there. You would have the institutions of learning that people like that would be in the area. So they would be asking local, like, smart people for, we need this type of programming for this type of thing that we're doing at the university. So there's these multiple tiers of specialized services and products that you need high IQ, high performance people for. All of this requires a lot of infrastructure because people like that have to live a certain lifestyle because they're usually going to simply be, they're going to be physically weaker people in a lot of cases. These aren't robust physical laborers. Anyway. And then also there's a certain lifestyle you expect to live when you invest in that kind of specialized skill set. And, a whole lot of things like that. So, so having a bullet train stop in San Luis Obispo kind of makes sense, but like he thought that this was going to be like what was promised. It was going to deliver all these people back and forth up the coast of California, so that they would be going from this city to that city in just like 2 hours and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, kinda, if that makes sense to do, but because he didn't know enough about the construction of California and the kind of communities that are up the coast, and so he didn't really know that this didn't really make a lot of sense if you're from there. There's some places it makes sense, but it fundamentally is like, this should have gone into the water infrastructure. This is so obviously something that should have gone into the water infrastructure. But, it doesn't even make sense that it did. If you have a bullet train, this implies that you are trying to move large numbers of people, like the East Coast. And the West Coast can't bear the kind of population numbers that are on the East Coast. It's just, there's not enough water. So, anyway, there was more than so my thing is, I think, and then the Fed having to hike rates and stuff like that, because somebody was pointing out, no, the Fed doesn't do things. The Fed has to follow the 7-year or 2-year bond yield. So it always tracks according to that. So that was that was something that somebody got into, and he's like, no, let me prove it to you, and he showed it and everything. And he's like, they're not really in control. They're only in control as much as people will float their debt. So I started to really think about that. You're going to have a lot of debt floated first before you could have some kind of super mega digital currency that the government controls. There's a lot of debt that would first be involved. A lot of a lot of setting up of extremely powerful server farms. Very specialized, very specialized kind of, what's it called? Specialized personnel, skill sets, such like that. This would not be something that people could just do in a few months. This would have to be something that has a number of years of setup and expansion. And so I really started to think about, like, no, there's just a natural difficulty to what's being proposed as the central, the digital currency, central bank digital currency setup, that we're not going to know the problems until the problems show up. But also, it was going to require a lot of debt being floated and leveraged. And I'm thinking that that's just not something even the fucking Pentagon has the power to do right now, is to leverage that much debt. I don't think they got it. I think they're looking at tax revenues. They're looking at what's happening in the Republican Party, and they're just like, something's going to give. Something is going to give first. And it's just a matter of what. Is it that the Republican Party is going to crush the IRS? Another president's going to enter the scene and alter the tax code. Very likely, if the Republicans are going to punish the intelligence community and the Pentagon for what they've done, for their traitorous activities, they have to. They have to. There's no choice. They have no choice. It's just that they're desperately, the oil men of the Republican Party are desperately trying to not do that, because their oil cartel is so valuable. This is why Cruz can't be trusted. This is what the whole point with Cruz is. Cruz apparently is an oil baron. So I just read this thread that really broke down very well. So the Bush family, with the former Nazis that they hired, created a cartel system to have, so this is why the Saudis pay the way they do in dollars for oil. This is why the whole part it's skim for the Pentagon. The Pentagon's is skimming off the top the whole time. And that's what And so it's just this, that's what it is. It's, so we can't have gold because the Pentagon wouldn't be able to fund itself. It wouldn't be able to pull off what it pulls off. And so almost everything that we do in some way, shape, or form is to limit domestic competition with oil cartels, and then we also, so that's what Biden's doing, is limiting the amount. So there's only so many companies that are making all the oil money. We're pumping out more from the Permian Basin than ever, apparently. Nobody's talking about that. And all of this is, but where is all this awesome money? How is it that nobody's getting rich? No, in Texas, rich guys are getting rich. People who are already invested in it are getting rich. So and that's so. Next thing was the Brickings will continue until behavior changes. Seattle area, the Democratic, Minnesota, leader of the Democratic Labor Farmers, or one of the leaders of the Democratic Labor Farmer thing. I was confusing her for a moment with a person in the Seattle City Council. Oh my gosh, look at this cute little doggy. Look at how cute you are. Why are you so cute? Oh, you could hear things in the future with those ears. Oh my gosh, that was adorable. Everybody has cute dogs nowadays, except for me. I have no cats, no dogs. All alone. So this woman gets carjacked and brutally carjacked. And so I made this one video, and I'm like, okay, I've got to Now I've got to remake this because it very much illustrates that even everybody's been objecting to this viral video goes around and this horrible thing happens to this lady, and she supposedly gets asked for her number, says no, and oh, the men, they're so violent, and oh, the men, they're so violent, why are they like this? And most men, of course, don't do that. This is actually pretty rare that something like that happens. All these, especially like Tanya TKO, then talks about how there's this guy who he is like, he talks about 2 instances that he knows about directly that the person who is the hero got killed, either by the woman he was saving or by the dude who he was saving her from. So he's like, no, really, this could get you killed. I'm not going to do that. So what does she do? She insults him. First thing she does. Shame and insults. And then she starts into, like, he is probably like one of these kind of guys, and comes up with all kinds of crazy stuff. And then looks at, is he going to help you? Would you ask a guy like this for help? Yada, yada, yada. Now, he looks like a very just average man. Black man who's just average, and an average American. The kind of guy who, it's like him and his chubby wife live next door, and they're very nice and happy people who keep to themselves. This is really, obviously this is a woman who, because she's pretty, she is just naturally a really horrible person. And so the beauty of this was that this person in Democratic Minnesota, she was obviously beat the hell out of by black people, because that's who commits almost all the crime there of this sort, carjacking and stuff like that. So this is now this thing of your objections, your shaming language, all this doesn't matter. Do you see what he's getting at? It doesn't matter. Her neighbors came out to stop them from beating her, and they were met with guns. None of your weird, I'm anger black lady stuff, it matters. People, until we can start locking them up like El Salvador does, nothing will matter. That's it. That's all. Mass incarceration, or that's what you're facing. And it won't be in red states. That won't be the case, because in red states they'll be able to shoot people, and that's it. If I gather right, she's from like New York or something, and it's just going to get worse and more terrible. This is going to get worse and more terrible. So, yeah. And you've seen it. What it is it's intrinsic to the blue enclaves. It's just a part. It comes part and parcel with it. You live in a blue enclave. Eventually, you're going to witness horrible violence against a woman, or you're going to hear about some woman who was brutally beaten, and nobody could do anything about it. Because nobody will do anything about it, because liberals don't believe in the virtue of courage. They just don't believe in it. So they won't punish people who are criminal. They want to hear the criminal side of their criminal story. Like broken women. Like, it's the way of thinking if you're a broken female, if you have a broken effeminate mind. That's not, oh, you committed crime, that's why we are punishing you. It's why are you mad that I commit crime? And it's the why you mad way of thinking of, there we go. The why you mad way of thinking of especially, you really run into this with black women. Everything I've been watching over the last handful of years, it's that seems to be how fundamentally their mind operates. So yeah, it'll just get worse.